So, have you ever wondered what really separates a decent crypto accountant from a truly exceptional one? Well, today, we're not just going to talk about it in theory, we're actually building the blueprint. We're going to take apart a real professional's profile piece by piece to give you a super clear, actionable guide for spotting that top tier talent. It's a complicated world out there in Web3 finance, so let's just dive right in. Okay, let's be real for a second. If you've ever felt that cold sweat, thinking about DeFi yields, all those NFT flips, and the arbitrage trades piling up when tax season rolls around, you are definitely not alone. It's just this incredibly complex, confusing landscape that can honestly feel like a total nightmare. But here's the thing. What if you could find someone who doesn't just tolerate that chaos, but actually thrives in it? See, that's because this is really the heart of the problem, right? Crypto accounting, it's not just like adding a new column to your spreadsheet. No way. It's a completely different puzzle altogether. You're dealing with these insanely volatile assets, regulations that seem to change by the minute, and financial systems that just operate in a totally different universe from the traditional stuff. So when you think about it, the single most crucial skill for a real expert in this space, it's not just about being good at crypto or even being good at traditional finance. It's about being a bridge. The real magic, the core competency, is being able to connect these two completely different financial worlds and weave them into one single coherent story. I mean, just look at the two sides. On one hand, you've got your standard fiat accounting. It's stable, it's heavily regulated, it's, pretty straightforward. But then you look at crypto accounting and it's just chaos. It's incredibly volatile, the rules are constantly shifting, and the complexity is on a whole other level. A top pro, they have to be a master of both of these worlds simultaneously. And what's so telling here is that this isn't just my analysis. This is a direct quote from the actual expert whose profile we're looking at. They are the ones who say this integration is their number one skill. They get it. They know that making crypto and fiat speak the same language, well, that's the whole ballgame when it comes to compliance and smart reporting. Okay, so how do they actually do that? Well, they use specialized tools. And a perfect example of this is something called a subledger. The best way to think of it is like a super detailed diary for every single one of your crypto transactions. It tracks everything, keeps it all meticulously organized before any of it gets summarized in the main books. And that right there is the sign of a real pro who has a system, not just a messy spreadsheet. All right, so we've established the core skill as being that bridge, and we know they need a solid system to make it happen. But how does that actually show up on a resume? How do you really check for this kind of expertise when you're hiring? Let's break it down into a really practical checklist. Honestly, it pretty much boils down to three key areas. First up, C-suite leadership. Have they actually been a chief accountant or maybe a part-time CFO? That's huge. Second, you want to look for hands-on experience with really specialized complex projects. Think ICOs, STOs, or deep in the weeds with DeFi protocols. And finally, number three, you have to verify their credentials and check that they've actually mastered the essential tools. And yeah, speaking of tools, check this out. These are the specific platforms our expert actually listed. They're a certified QuickBooks Pro Advisor, sure, but they're also a pro with Xero, Zoho, and a bunch more. And that shows something really, really important. Adaptability. Because every business runs on different software, right? It proves it's not just about knowing crypto. It's about mastering all the tools of the trade wherever they are. All right, now for what I think is the real litmus test. Look, the best pros in this field aren't just competent, they are absolutely battle-tested. They're the ones who have handled the kind of high-volume, high-complexity cases that would make most accountants just completely freeze up. This, right here, is how you separate the true experts from everyone else. So let's talk hard numbers for a second. This professional we're looking at has handled up to 400 Bitcoin in trading volume for a single client. Just let that sink in. That's not just a ton of transactions. That is an immense amount of value and risk that you have to manage with absolute, perfect accuracy. And it doesn't even stop there. They've also managed clients with volumes hitting 3,500 ETH. These numbers aren't just for show. They're so crucial. They prove this person can perform under extreme pressure. They prove they can manage systems at a massive scale. This is the tangible, hard proof of high-level experience you're looking for. But honestly, here's the ultimate credential. This quote says everything you need to know. They take on cases specifically to help other CPAs who are stuck. Think about that. They aren't just an expert. They are the expert that other experts call when they need help. I mean, that is the absolute gold standard. Okay, so let's put all these pieces together. We've broken down the problem, we've identified the core skills, we've seen the proof points. Now let's assemble all of that into a simple, powerful framework that you can actually go out and use. So here it is, your crypto hiring blueprint. First, seek out a true financial integrator, someone who can bridge that gap between crypto and fiat. Second, verify they've had C-suite leadership roles. Third, demand to see specialized project experience, like with STOs or DeFi. Fourth, check for those key certifications like CPA or Pro Advisor. And finally, and this is maybe the most important, ask them about the high-volume cases they've handled. You know, following this blueprint is definitely going to help you find the right expertise to handle the complexities of right now. But it also leaves us with a much bigger question to think about. As the world of finance keeps evolving at lightning speed, is your strategy and is your team truly ready for what's coming next?